Welcome back. Now in this video we're going to take care of the two buttons that we had underneath. Now the thing is, we are going to again misuse the button options. The confirm button, for example, we're going to, instead of having one button, we're going to put two buttons in there. And that's again something, we have the flexibility, right? So why not? I mean, in the end, you see there's this text property, and then there was this confirm button property that we can override for our alert dialog. Now, let me override that with our own code. And therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a row in there. And this row is, again, something we need to import. So Alt, Enter, and it's going to be this composable row. Now, this row is going to have a modifier assigned to it, where I'm going to say modifier fill max width and add a padding as well. So I'm going to add 8 density pixel of padding so that it's not going to be clamped too hard. And then I need to add another property, and that will be the horizontal arrangement, which I'm going to select arrangement dot space between. So basically what this does is it just says, okay, this row should have items next to each other, but they should be pushed away from each other, that there is proper space in between. Okay, so now what are the content pieces that I want to have for this row? Well, let's look at our application again. So here, the finished one, you see we have this add button and the cancel button. And by the way, you see this one is very far to the left and this one is very far to the right. Basically, there is this invisible line where the edge of our alert dialog pretty much is, and it just says, okay, push yourself towards the left and this one towards the right and put as much space in between as possible. And that's what this arrangement does. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and add a button in here. The first button, and it needs an on-click event, as buttons do. And we're going to implement what should happen once we click on this button, but the button also needs a content. Otherwise we get this error, as you can see here, and this one just should say add. Very simple button. Now let's get to the next button straight away as well, while we're at it. And it also needs an on-click event. And this one will say show dialog equals false. So this button is very simple. The only thing that it does is it just deactivates our alert dialog, okay? And the text of it should say cancel, okay? Because if you look at it, that's what this button says, and that's what this button does. So if we click on cancel, the alert dialog disappears. That's it. So that's the easy part. Now let's get to the more difficult part. Still not hard, but a little more difficult than just saying cancel and displaying, well, getting rid of the dialog. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that whenever item name is not blank, so that's why I have this if statement here. So whenever we click on this button here on the add button, we're checking if this field here, which is the item name, when this or if this is empty, we don't want to do anything, right? But if it's not empty, then we want to create a new shopping item object. And we want to store that shopping item object inside of our items list. So this as items, which is our shopping item list. So let's go ahead and do just that. We're going to create a new item, which will be of type shopping item. And we're just going to assign a shopping item object to new item. So you see, we need an ID, we need a name, we need a quantity, and we need to know whether we're editing it or not. So I'm going to say that the ID should be, and let me put that into a separate line so it's a little more readable. So the ID should be sItems.size +1. So I'm basically saying here that take whatever amount of items you have in that list and add 1 as the ID, which means that we're going to start with 1. So as long as there are no items in our list, this items.size will be 0, okay? And we add 1 to it, which means the ID at that point will be 1. Now, if we add another item to it, the ID of the second item will be the size of the items list, which is 1 plus 1, which will be 2. So then the second item will have the ID of 2, and that's what this as_items_size plus 1 is doing. So now that we have the ID, let's take care of the name, and the name is very simple. It's actually just the item name, because that's what this whole variable has been for all together, right? All along, basically. So this item name is whatever we enter here. That's what we want to be stored. And now there is another variable that we have. So we have the name, and we need to set the quantity. And the quantity will be item quantity dot toInt. Okay, so that means that the fields that we have here, let me actually quickly go over this one here. We take whatever we enter in there and we make an int out of it, because it is not an int, it's a string. So now we're converting that string into an int. Now this can obviously go wrong, so we would need to make sure that it doesn't by adding a bunch of if statements around it, slash by adding basically try and catches around it. But that's something we're going to do a lot later. For now, it's really just for you to basically understand what's going on. So that is about what we need for a new item. Okay, these are the properties that we need to set up for a new item. Why don't we need to set up isEditing? Do you know that? Well, we don't need to set that up because by default it's set to false. So we don't need to manually set that value as well. It's already there. It's just stored as false. And if we want to override it, we can override it. Otherwise, it's just going to be false until we change it. Okay, so coming back to our button on click, which says is not blank, new item. And now we need to add that new item that we just set up, this new shopping item. We need to add that to our list of items, which is our asItems variable. And we're going to say asItems is going to be the old asItems plus the new item that we created. And now we're going to say, once we click on this button, we also want to make sure that the dialog is not displayed anymore. So our alert dialog should be hidden as well. So that's what the show dialog does. And then finally, I want to reset the item name to be an empty string again. Because what we don't want is to, next time we click on add item, that it automatically fills it up with the name that we had earlier and we need to manually delete it again. It would be so annoying, which is why we're resetting it to being an empty variable or an empty string. So now the button, let me see, all is good until here, I think. Now let's actually run this and just see if we get at least that information in there. It doesn't mean that we're storing it and we're displaying it on the screen yet. We're not there yet, but let's go ahead and click on the add item. You see we have the add shopping item. We have this field, we have that field, we have the add and the cancel. So let's set something up here. Let's say house. Let's buy a house for our kids, like a small playhouse or whatever. And let's add a quantity and then click on add. And now this item has been added to our impersistent list, but we're not displaying it anywhere yet, which is something we will do or start setting up in the next video. But for now, I'm quite happy with what we have here. And you see, I never reset this item here, or like our shopping, where is it? Our outlined text on value change item quantity. I'm never resetting that when I click on the add button. Now you can obviously reset the quantity as well. Okay, and I would say that would be it for this video. See you in the next one.